Good evening, and welcome to the Washington Township Board of Education Candidates Forum, sponsored by the President's Council of the Washington Township PTOs. My name is Barbara Kutcher, and I'm a member of the League of Women Voters of Burlington County. I am pleased to be this evening's moderator. The League of Women Voters is a nonpartisan political organization whose purpose is to encourage informed and active citizen participation in government. The League works to increase understanding of major public policy issues and influences public policy through education and advocacy. Elections and voting are core concerns for the League of Women Voters. Year in and year out, leagues are committed to providing fact-based information about issues and the positions candidates take on those issues to help voters make their decisions and participate in the electoral process. The League does not support political parties or candidates. Any use of the League name or of footage from the debate, which is being recorded for online access by the Washington Township Public Schools, in campaign materials, literature, or advertising of any kind has not been authorized by the League of Women Voters. League of Women Voters guidelines for forums are designed to encourage an exchange of ideas on issues. The League has adopted the following format for this evening's discussion. These introductory remarks will be followed by candidate introductions and written statements by candidates who are not participating this evening. Then the candidates, in a rotating ballot order, will be given an opportunity to respond to questions that have been pre-screened for wording and content. Each candidate will be given 75 seconds to respond, with rebuttal time of 30 seconds awarded at my discretion. During the final segment of the forum, each candidate will deliver a closing statement of up to 90 seconds in duration in reverse ballot order. A League of Women Voters volunteer is acting as forum timekeeper. She is in full view of the candidates. A yellow card will be displayed to indicate that 15 seconds remain in each candidate's allotted time. A little higher. Good. A red card will be displayed to indicate that time has elapsed. The candidates have been reminded to finish promptly. As I remind all candidates, statements and responses to questions shall remain pertinent to the office and issues. Candidates are asked to maintain an appropriate regard for polite civic dialogue. Remarks of a personalized or abusive nature are not permitted. Candidates have been asked to silence cell phones and to refrain from using any electronic device except the one being used to connect to the forum. No recording other than that of the official Washington Township Public Schools is permitted. Thank you for your patience. We can now move ahead to this evening's program. This year, 9 candidates are seeking election to 3 three-year terms on the Washington Township Board of Education. Their names in ballot order are Kathleen Gallinaro, James L. Ticcino, Chase Collins, Elayne Clancy, Julie Kozempel, incumbent, Brian Ellis, incumbent, Ralph E. Ross, Billy McElroy, James McKeever. 3 candidates are seeking one one-year unexpired term. Their names in ballot order are Stacey Dimeo, Cynthia L. Taglienti, and Laura Din. Candidates McElroy, McKeever, Ross, Ticcino, and Din are not able to participate in tonight's forum. However, they have submitted statements which I will read now. First, there's a joint statement, and then there are brief candidate bios. We are running as a team because we are a diverse group of individuals with shared views. As a team, our plan, if elected, is to continue to build off a strong foundation composed of excellent teachers and support staff. We plan to view the budget and make any necessary changes to make sure the teachers and support staff are being taken care of so they have proper resources to support the children. Collectively, we feel under the current COVID restrictions, everyone is doing the best they can with what little time they were given to prepare. At the moment, the children are not getting the education they deserve. We need to explore options to get the children back in school full time. We are sensitive to the fact that many teachers are not comfortable, but we also see that many are ready, willing, and able to get back in the classroom. We are very concerned about the long-term social and emotional effects of our children should this continue too much longer. On the topic of racial sensitivity, as it relates to being taught to students and staff, we feel outside professionals must be engaged that are properly trained on this topic. History and current events should be taught, but it must be done with facts, not with propaganda, opinions, and a teacher's personal political views. Now I will read a brief bio of each of the candidates. Laura A. Din. I am a human resources business partner with more than 20 years experience in the industry. Currently, I work for a global medical device company. I graduated with a bachelor's degree in sociology from West Virginia University, where I also minored in communications. I am the treasurer of my neighborhood home association. I am the mother of a 6-year-old who just started first grade at Herfville. I am running for school board because I am passionate about making sure that all children in our township have access to an education that will prepare them to be successful adults. I want to be a part of making each and every township student school experience a happy, safe, and healthy one. Now, this is Billy McElroy. I am the branch owner of Team McElroy at Cross Country Mortgage. My wife Lauren and I have lived in Washington Township for the last 14 years. We are the proud parents of a 10-month-old son, Luciano, and a fur baby, Carmine. For 20 years, I have run a successful mortgage company and look forward to using my business knowledge to assist as a board member. I graduated with my bachelor's degree from Penn State while simultaneously coaching basketball at the State College High School. I have coached basketball here in town with Parks and Recreation as well as travel basketball teams. I am a member of the board of realtors with GSCBOR and Nexus Association of Realtors, and currently serve as a board member with the Philadelphia Crime Commission. I love giving back to the community. I am running for the school board with my team under the slogan, Educating Township's Future, because we want all children to have access to an education that will prepare them to be successful adults, no matter which path they choose. All children should have the knowledge and information provided to them with all of their post-high school options. We will make decisions that protect all the stakeholders involved in the Washington Township School District. We value our children, teachers, administration, support staff, and community members equally. Ralph E. Ross, Sr. I am a longtime resident of Washington Township, where all 4 of my children attended and graduated from. I am a graduate of the College of New Jersey with a BA and MA degree. I also have administrative coursework for Rutgers and Rowan University. I have served as a teacher, supervisor, principal, assistant superintendent, and superintendent of schools for Black Horse Pike Regional School District, Deptford School District, and Monroe School District. I have also been involved in educating students all my life, having served as a member of this school board and as president during the rebuilding and transformation of many of the buildings and changes that we are fortunate to use now. I was chairman of the Gloucester County College Board of Trustees, chairman of the New Jersey Interscholastic Athletic Associations, and served as a member and chairman of many middle state evaluations throughout New Jersey. I have coached Little League baseball and football for the WTAA and coached high school football and wrestling at Highland Regional High School. I am running for this school board because I believe that we are living in a technological society with the emphasis on tools, materials, and ideas where it is necessary that we educate for the future. Our students must be prepared and educated for these changes, whether they are college-bound or entering the trades. I believe with my experience as an educator, we will be able to give our administrators, teachers, and staff the necessary resources they need to accomplish our mission. Now, this is James McKeever. I have been a proud member of the community for 25 years and have had several children and grandchildren go through the public school system. I am the former director of municipal services in the township. I retired with over 40 years of community service. I have served on various boards and committees. I attended Camden County College, Glassboro State, and Rutgers University. I am passionate about making sure that all the children in our town have access to an education that will prepare them for college as well as vocational careers. I understand the challenges we need to overcome and see the path forward. Okay. Thank you for your patience during these remarks from the candidates who were unable to participate this evening. Now we will move on to the question and answer segment of the forum. I have collected questions submitted by the voters and the Washington Township PTOs and reviewed them for clarity and content. Some of the many questions have been grouped together. I will try to ask as many questions on as many topics as possible. Each candidate will have a 75-second opportunity to respond. At my discretion, 30 seconds each will be allowed for rebuttals. Candidate responses to questions shall remain pertinent to the office and issues. As we discussed, the yellow card will be held up to indicate that 15 seconds remain in the candidate's allotted time. The red card will be held up to indicate that time has elapsed. Let me get the list of questions. Okay. Are the Washington Township schools achieving high-quality remote classroom experiences? What improvements would you recommend? How might the district be more responsive to parents who are juggling work and monitoring their children's online learning? And we are going to begin with Kathleen Gallinaro.
Okay, thank you. I do believe that our district is trying their hardest to provide quality education during this difficult time. However, I know from experience with my own two children, and I know from talking to so many people that parents and families and students are struggling, and a lot of the learners are falling through the cracks. I think that from what I have seen lately, there have been some indications that we're moving towards a live instruction, and I think that that is really going to help. One of the things that I worry about specifically is also the mental health issues that arise from students who are doing remote instruction. I think it's really important that we find a way to reach out and connect them, not only with teachers, but with each other, because they are losing that extremely during this time period, my own children included. As far as things we can do for families, I think keeping the families interconnected is a big issue, whether it's through social media or through meets such as this. finding a way to make sure that families are connected and that their voices are heard is something that is very, very important during this time.
Thank you. Our next speaker will be Chase Collins.
Hi, how am I good?
Yes.
Oh, hey,
I just wanted you to give it a second to let Jason turn on the audio.
Awesome, great. All right, so everybody can hear me. All right, so my name's Chase. As you guys can see, I'm obviously pretty young. Okay, I'm 28 years old. I don't have any children in the school district, but I do think that Washington Township's school is doing everything that they can do with the short amount of time that they are given. Kathleen made a really good point about that. Though the reason that why I'm getting into this is because I think that there are definitely some things that are overlooked. You know, granted, we the COVID-19, the health issues and everything like that. But we really got to get the kids back into school, not only so that the children have the social interaction with their friends and things as such like that. The learners get to actually have the one-on-one connection with the teacher. But I think one of the big reasons why we really need to get the kids back into school is because the parents are really suffering at home. I mean, it's great to have the one-on-one connection with your child, but you also have to get these kids back into school safely because the bills have to get paid at the end of the day. I think with my team, I was running with Jim Ticcino. Unfortunately, today he couldn't make it. He had some technical difficulties. But with my team, we have some plans that we'd like to move forward to try to get the students back in the school, get the parents back to work, get the socialization back with the students. And that's really it. That's the whole reason why I wanted to join the Board of Education.
Okay, thank you. Our next speaker will be Elayne Clancy.
Okay, hi. I'm running for the school board. I was a teacher here in the township for 25 years, and I know how important it is for the children to be in the classroom with the teacher so that they can ask questions and not have to wait for the answers. But we need to get them in the class safe. As far as the virtual education, it's not consistent right now. And that's very important. We need to get them back into school as soon as we can, as safely as we can. And the kids need to be there.
Okay. Next, we will hear from Julie Kozempel.
Hi, everyone. I'm a mother of three. I have a fourth grader at Wedgwood, a seventh grader at Chestnut Ridge, and a freshman in high school. And when I get off this call, we'll be doing homework, as we do all day long. Nobody feels the frustration of this, quite frankly, maybe more than I do as the current board president and also having three kids at three different levels. Every single day, it's a conversation between administration, myself, and other board members about how we're going to return to school. But what a lot of people don't understand are the restrictions that were put on us by the state. So I served on every single return and reentry committee as an ad hoc member. I was on the task force, and I'm very familiar with these issues. And at this point, exactly what we're working towards is a plan to bring students back 5 days a week. But there's a lot of things that you need to know about and that you need to consider in order to do that. For example, people say, well, why can't we just bring them all back? There's 6 in the morning and 6 in the afternoon, put them together. One of the reasons why we're able to keep our schools open right now is because if there is an outbreak, everyone is socially distanced. We don't have to close the school down because the kids are 6 feet apart. If they're not, the school closes. So we're making a lot of changes to add live instruction, which begins on Monday, and it's going to make a lot of improvements. But that is a Band-Aid to the larger issue, which we're working on behind the scenes, which is bringing the kids back as soon as we can.
Okay, thank you. Next, Brian Ellis.
Yeah, thank you, Barbara. In a unique position as well. You know, being a current member of the board, and I was able to see the effort made by the board members and administration to make sure that we do what was in the best interest of our students during this global pandemic. Having said that, you know, I think I've been delighted by the way we've been able to pivot as a school district. You know, obviously this is not optimal. You know, I think we all would prefer if our students were in every day with live instruction. However, considering the circumstance, that's not an option currently. having said that, again, I think the flexibility that's been demonstrated and the ability to pivot and have a phase-in approach is the best we can do at this point. So I think moving forward, I'm a father of two in the district currently, and my kids they've been somewhat challenged. So I'm feeling like moving forward, we'll have the opportunity to get all the kids back, but when it's safe to do so. Thank you.
Thank you. To Stacey Dimeo.
Hi, the timekeeper, a couple people are fading in and out because of my connectivity, so I'll do my best to keep it under the 75 seconds. I'm a mother of two in the district as well, sixth grade and seventh grade, two middle schoolers, it's great. It's a challenge and it's not what any of us want. No, but every single person on this earth wants their children back in school. No one thinks this is ideal. Nobody wants this to be the way it is. But there are realities we have to face. There's a Department of Health, there's a CDC, there's a Department of Ed, all guidelines that have to be followed. As a school administrator in another district, there are realities. We don't like them. We don't like COVID. Nobody does. But I think the changes and improvements we've seen since the spring have been fantastic. I've been praying for a change in the remote process because we need more direct instruction, more support, and we're getting that. I'm on two reopening committees as well. And I think the community is being listened to and everyone is doing the best that they can at this moment. And we're going to move there moving forward.
Thank you. And last on this question is Cynthia Taglienti.
Just to follow up what everybody else had said, I agree totally that it's not something that we wanted out there. And I believe the school district has been doing their best possible to get the school opened. It's a tedious task. There's all the guidelines from the state. I work in a school district as well, and I've been on a reopening committee and have been working since COVID hit in March nonstop. And it's a difficult situation. And I feel for the parents out there because I'm a parent of two that are in their 20s that I can't imagine having to deal with juggling the homework and everything else that everybody's been subjected to. And right now I have input. Both of my children are teachers in other school districts. So I'm hearing the concerns they have from a teacher standpoint. And there's a lot there. There's just not enough time for the teachers to work with the kids, to do their prep work, to be involved. And there are a lot of students who really need that one-on-one in the classrooms, and they're not getting it remotely. But there's a situation where you just have to be safe for everybody. So it's a rock between a hard place. So it's going to be a challenge to try to get reopened. I don't see it reopening fully for a while. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you. And before we start question number 2, apologies, my background is backwards. So I hope it doesn't give anybody headaches. Question two.
It actually looks normal to us. It looks the way it's supposed to look to us. It might
good,
just look backwards.
It's backwards to me. Should the Board of Education act to make tutoring and homework assistance more available to students during the pandemic? What recommendations would you make? And we begin with Chase Collins.
Can you guys hear me?
Yeah.
Yeah, as good as that sounds, I think that's probably a little backwards, it sounds like. If the teacher is going to the student's house, they're interacting with the children, they're interacting with the parent, then they're going to the next house, interacting with that student, interacting with that parent. So that kind of doesn't really sound like it solves the issue of keeping the children away from each other if you just have one person going to the house, teaching the student, going to the next person's house. So if they were to become infected, then they're traveling to everybody's home, getting parents affected, things like that. So no, I'd probably be against that, to tell you the truth. I think that we need to figure out a way to just minimize the amount of potential germs that could be going on with the students at the classroom, maybe monitor the children's at the doors when they're walking in, get them back in the classroom, get the parents back to work. and get everything on board. But I definitely would be against the idea of sending tutors to the home. That if the tutors can go to the home, the children's can go to school. That's kind of my opinion on that. Thank you.
Thank you. Before we move on, I just did want to clarify, the question did not say home instruction. It just said to make tutoring and homework assistance available. So we will move on to Elayne Clancy.
I know that my granddaughter has difficulty sometimes with what she's doing in school. And what she'll do is she'll actually, get a hold of me, and we will do virtual tutoring where I'm using my device, using her device and the cell phone. And so it is possible, but you also have to have those pieces of technology available. I think it's important if a child's having difficulty to getting the extra help. It's just, how are you going to do it? I know when the kids are in school, there's a lot of, extra help done, homework clubs and after school help. But I do believe that if it can be done, that the tutoring virtually would be ideal at this point.
Thank you. The next speaker on this question will be Julie Kozempel.
We absolutely can offer and do offer in many different ways online tutoring for the kids. It seems to vary from school to school and level to level. Starting this Monday, the best thing for the kids right now is if they are with their classmates and with their teacher more often in a live format. So starting this Monday, instead of students just going in on their cohort day and then coming home and kind of being on their own for the rest of the week and not taking advantage of the office hours that the teachers do provide already on Wednesdays, we're going to have them logging in with the other cohort. So my cohort A will go to school Monday and Tuesday, and they will get up, they will log in, and they will be present in the class for secondary ed on Thursdays and Fridays. Wednesdays eventually will run periods 1 through 8. So there'll be that's for secondary. For elementary, there's a lot of different things that are being looked at now to improve the amount of contact students have with their teachers. A lot of that involves negotiating with teachers, so I can't talk about a lot of those things. But I will say that teachers are acting as their own tutors right now. Every teacher I know is working till 10:30 at night, Zooming with their students and doing that, and it is untenable. So we need to find a way to help them out, and we absolutely can provide it electronically. We have all of the materials. We have a one-to-one initiative and plenty of.
Thank you. Thank you. I'm sorry I have to cut you off. Next speaker is Brian Ellis.
Yeah, I think more than anything, what COVID did for us was create opportunities that probably we didn't think about a year ago. And to that point, I think virtual tutoring and homework assistance is just kind of one of those things, right? I think for the most part, we're building this bridge as we cross it. So we're going to keep continuously get things like this, new innovation, new ideas. I think it's a great opportunity, not only to use our teachers and administrators to help tutor students and homework support, but how about other students? How about junior achievement? How about thinking outside of the box and bringing in, maybe some college students, maybe in education, to kind of support our students virtually to be able to assist them with tutoring and homework. I'm at a university, and one thing that we implemented during COVID was virtual tutoring. Again, a year ago, this is something that we probably didn't think would exist, but it does, and it's been quite effective. So I do think there's some opportunities that we need to look forward to, even after COVID, to kind of keep this innovation and things up in the forefront. So thank you.
Okay, thank you. And to Stacey Dimeo.
What some have already said, there are office hours, and there is a lot of availability as far as reaching out to teachers to get support for our students. That being said, as a parent, it's kind of hard to navigate what's out there. And I think we're getting email after email, and it is overwhelming when you're working full time and trying to teach your students and trying to keep it all together. I'm hanging on by a thread myself. But I think as a board, we could possibly do some community outreach so parents know what is available, because I'm not sure all parents realize that there are office hours in the afternoon, office hours all day Wednesday, and there is stuff out there. And also teaching our students to be advocates for themselves, to reach out to their teacher, say, hey, I don't understand this. Can we meet at some point this week? And the answer will be yes. I'm fairly confident with the teachers my children have had. So I think the support is there, but maybe as a board, we can reach out and let the parents know what is available, and they can assist their their children.
Thank you. Now to Cynthia Taglienti.
Just to follow up on that, I think, it's very important for the board and the school district to supply the tutoring and the extra online for the students. And I believe they are doing some of that now. Some of the teachers do have office hours and things. So, but I think maybe a lot of the students or the families, like Stacey had said, aren't aware that this is available. So there might be some way that we could put that out there just to let them know that it's there. I fully agree that, there should be things there, maybe even extend that as long as we're following the guidelines for the teachers with their unions. We don't want to upset that. And I know right now a lot of the teachers are at their wits' ends. They're really stretched. And we have to remember that and the guidelines and what the contracts say with that and keep that in mind. Thank you.
Thank you. And last on this question, Kathleen Gallinaro.
So I know from my own children, reaching out for help is not always something that 6th and 8th graders do on their own without a little push. The help is there, especially Wednesday office hours. My children have utilized it. The teachers have been so receptive. When we shoot them an email, they get back to us. Sometimes it's 10 or 11 at night and they're getting back to us. I think that part of the problem is that we need to kind of streamline what we're seeing. Schoology doesn't always present information in a way that's clear and concise. So students don't always know exactly when they can find what. There is, I know, a homework club option being presented virtually. And I know that there's teachers who would like to have small groups, and I've seen them utilize the office hours. It's a matter of getting it out there to the students and making sure that they are able to access it easily and without like the parent helping all the time, because sometimes parents can't. Parents are working as well. So it's going to be a matter of kind of pushing it out in a way that minimizes the confusion and the lack of organization.
Okay, thank you. We had a lot of questions about COVID and its effect on the schools. So we're going to move on to question 3, which is still on the same topic. Please discuss your position on any eventual return to in-person 5-day-per-week classes and also to indoor extracurricular programs. And we're going to begin this round with Elayne Clancy.
As far as I'm concerned, the sooner that we can get the children back to school full time, the better. But we have to remember to do it in a safe way for the children and the teachers, because we don't want anybody getting sick and then everybody has to stop going to school full time. It needs to be done in a safe manner, making sure that they're safe, that the teachers are safe. As far as extracurricular activities, I know that there are some things that are happening right now in certain schools for extracurricular activities. I think they're important for the children to have a well-rounded education, and that's including those activities that they're involved in. That too has to be done safely. I know that there are private clubs where kids are playing, different sports with only the athletes, the officials, and the coaches. So it would definitely have to be done in a safe manner as far as, sports go and the other activities in a safe manner. But they are important for the kids to be well-rounded as far as their education goes. It's part of who they are, what makes them.
Thank you. Julie Kozempel.
I want to be absolutely clear that I want my kids in school 5 days a week as soon as humanly possible, if it is safe and the guidelines are lifted. I cannot be any clearer about that. I have written several strongly worded emails to our administrators, superintendents, assistant superintendents, and every director just last week, inviting them into my home to see what this looks like. I'm a teacher at Camden County College. I have 240 students of my own that I'm trying to teach online, and I have 3 learners sitting around me all day that need my help. This is not ideal, and this cannot continue, and the learning loss is significant in my opinion. However, that said, we again are so limited by these guidelines. I don't even want to call them guidelines. They're restrictions, and people can take their kids out and send them to private schools, but they do not have the same restrictions, and they do not have teachers. They don't have teachers unions, which I fully believe in teachers unions and have been a member of, and I think are a great thing. But what people need to remember there is when you make a change to a contract, the union has to agree to that, and you have to sit down and talk with them, and that can take some time. So I'm very proud of our district for making changes as we move along with this. But again, it's a process. It's not something that we can just do tomorrow. We're planning a month out, weeks out, and we're doing the best that we can. But yes, I want them back.
Thank you. And to Brian Ellis on this question.
Yeah, I'm going to echo a lot of what's been said already by my fellow candidates here. Again, I'm a parent, and I want those kids back in school ASAP, 5 days a week. Let's get back to some normality around here, and it's going to be a while before we do that, and we have to understand that. Having said that, I mean, there's a lot of variables we need to take into consideration, right? Obviously, safety is first and foremost. We need to make sure that it is safe to do so. To Julie's point, you know, a lot of these restrictions were sanctioned by the state of New Jersey. You know, but in addition to safety being a variable, we need to think about busing. You know, how are we going to get the kids to school? We need to think about how we're going to feed the kids once they're in school. So again, there's a whole mishmash of things that need to happen for us to do this safely and effectively. But again, I fully support and endorse our kids going back to 5 days a week. You know, unfortunately, right now in the world that we live in during this pandemic, it's been a challenge for a lot of people. You know, I do think once we start ramping up to that point, you know, maybe a phased-in approach is what we want to consider, right? Maybe we'll have some of the younger kids, maybe the elementary schools come back first in phase 1, and then phase 2 and phase 3, till we can get them all there safely together. But I fully support having the kids back in school as soon as humanly possible. Thank you.
Thank you. And now to Stacey Dimeo.
I think we keep hearing that, you know, this is the new normal. Well, I want the old normal. I want my kids back in school. You know, it's, you know, we've said it before. It's challenging, is to say the least, what it's like to be a working parent and having learners at home. But again, you know, there are districts in other counties that haven't even gone back in person yet at all. We're doing a hybrid model. We're doing the best job we can. I'm just repeating what everyone's saying. It's guidelines, it's safety, transportation, social distancing, cleaning, and staff. And there's so many moving parts that no one has any idea that goes into. We're not nobody. Many people don't understand the nuances and the facets and all the moving parts that go into play getting these kids back in school. However, everybody wants that to happen, and fingers crossed it will happen as soon as possible and have it done safely.
Thank you. And now to Cynthia Taglienti.
I agree with everybody else here too. I don't know anybody that doesn't want the kids to go back full-time 5 days a week. It's crazy having them home. There's a lot to look at as far as the social distancing once you get them back in. Like Brian had said about the busing. I work in school food service. I've been feeding them since March, all through the summer. It's not an easy task. So there's just a lot of things to put into place to be able to get them back safely 5 days a week. But I think we all want that for the kids, because that's the best learning environment that they could be in. So with that said, that's about all I have to say on that.
Thank you. Now to Kathleen Gallinaro.
You know what I'm going to say. We want them, please. The second they can all go back, I'll be the one driving up saying tuck and roll and getting them out of the car. As a teacher, I'm teaching remote kindergarten right now. It is the most challenging time I've ever had in the 20 years that I've been there. I've taught STEM, financial literacy, all of these things, every classroom, K to 6. Remote kindergarten is so difficult for those children. It's frustrating for everybody. But right now, our emotions tend to take over the more frustrated we get. And it's important to consider the fact that the safety, the guidelines we have to follow, how to get everything sanitized if we had everybody back would be such an issue. One of my children catches every single thing that comes along. I can't imagine how many days he would miss just because we would be having all these germs going back and forth. It's so multifaceted. There's so much that goes into it. It's like fitting a million puzzle pieces together into one thing. And I think that even though we all want it, it has to be, like Brian had said, that slow, phased-in approach in order to do it safely.
Thank you. And last on this question is Chase Collins.
I'd like to apologize for knowing the question incorrectly on my last one. But anyway, honestly, tell you the truth, Brian made a really good point in regards to all the necessary steps to get things done safely. And Kathleen made a great point of kindergarten, like that's probably nearly impossible to teach a kindergarten remotely. I have a 2-year-old, I can barely get her to sit down for 2 seconds. But I really don't think it's going to be that. I mean, I know everybody's saying how complicated this is, but I mean, if you look at simple things like the gyms around us, they have sanitation crews that are working at the gyms now, wiping down benches and chairs. I mean, something just right off the cusp, very simple. You can train the janitorial staff on how to sanitize, let's just say a hallway or the bus, right? You can very easily have a bus driver monitoring temperatures on the inside. These are just like obviously surface ideas that are, being presented here. If I was to get into the Board of Education, that would be one of the main steps is getting the kids back into school. And I think obviously the first thing would be a sanitation issue. Like Kathleen said, that they go everywhere, that there's germs everywhere throughout the school. So it's going to be so hard to monitor the children. But definitely, without a doubt, I mean, Clorox wipes go a very far way. As long as we can work that into the budget, I think that would work out quite well.
Okay, thank you. I'm going to move on to a different topic right now. And this will be question number 4. Please detail your position on the change to standards-based grading as opposed to traditional grading. What changes, if any, would you make? And we'll begin with Julie Kozempel.
I was in favor of standards-based grading when it was presented to us in Instructional Affairs Committee for elementary. And just to clarify, we only use it in elementary right now. I know there's been some discussion at looking at that at the middle level, but it is only for elementary students. And while I loved my first 2 kids being able to see, A's and B's on their report cards, this allows teachers and the schools to certify learning for students on the standards that they must meet. So not just giving a grade just for, their ELA class, but for the standards that they have to, the state standards that they have to meet for that class. So it's much more granular and detailed. And it also allows for the student to maybe excel in certain areas to show that they have excelled in certain areas of a course, and not just overall in that course. We all know most people are skilled in math and science and/or history and English. But there might be areas within those classes that you are excelling, and so this allows us to tell the students and their parents how well they're doing in a more detailed way.
Okay, thank you. And now to Brian Ellis.
Yeah, thank you. For me, again, I'm all about innovation. I think when I was in school, we had traditional based grading, and I'll be honest with you, I was, we were teaching and we were learning for the test. I think the standard based grading kind of moves us away from that paradigm. And to be honest with you, being in higher education, when we look at applicants for admission, we like to say it's more than just, your GPAs, and it's more than just your SAT scores or ACT scores. It's that holistic approach. I think standard-based testing allows us to do that. Now, again, right now in the district, to Julie's point, it's only happening at the elementary level, but I do think there's some merit in that and expanding it. And maybe not through all courses. We have our traditional courses that traditional grading would be and should be appropriate. But I do think it's something, if we want to evolve and be a next generation school district, it's something that we should at least think about. Thank you.
Thank you. And to Stacey Dimeo.
Districts have been using standards-based grading for a while now. I've seen it implemented before. I think you have to look at the bigger picture as what is a report card? A report card isn't just a place, we love to praise our children, but a report card is to monitor progress. And you monitor progress based on mastery and based on learning standards and what they're actually learning. Standard-based grading allows teachers, administrators to look at the skill and look at where the kids are mastering, where they're needing improvement, and that also helps guide instruction. Not all students are great test takers either, so this allows teachers to use other ways to assess learning and assess mastery of skill. And also, I think it's a time for us, we can still celebrate kids, but let's celebrate grit and perseverance, which is really what will, help mold our children to being successful. Grit is one of the biggest indicators of success. So we could use this opportunity to look at other ways to celebrate our kids, and not just A's and B's, but we need to use the standards base to really get in there and see what they're learning, what we can improve instructionally.
Thank you. And to now Cynthia Taglienti.
I think standard-based grading is allows the teachers to evaluate the students more accurately. A lot of kids, like somebody had said, that they don't test as well. I think it gives them an overall, instead of just an A, B, and things like that. It shows a little bit more of what they're capable of doing and be able to evaluate them for like the long term and not just immediately satisfactory on a report card. We can see a little bit more in detail of what these strengths some of the students have and what they don't have, and be able to apply that to try to change and grow and make the students grow a little bit more with that instead of the old way of doing it. Thank you.
Okay, and now to Kathleen Gallinaro.
I am very much a fan of standards-based grading. As a teacher who's been in the elementary setting, it is really important for the classroom teacher, if it's implemented effectively and teachers are given the correct tools, to be able to see what a student does. An A or a B or a C tells you not very much. However, if, say in math, a student is struggling with multi-step word problems, yet they can multiply two-digit numbers by another two-digit numbers, it's telling you exactly what they need. It's telling you how to approach what they need. And then it helps you individualize. And also as a parent, when I see that, I know what my child is struggling. I know where, if I need tutoring, I know where the focus is. It allows me to see in depth something more than just a letter, which, that's something to be proud of. I'm not saying it isn't. It's just that if you want to build them and their academic levels to let them become as successful as possible, you have to know exactly where their strengths and their weaknesses are.
Thank you. And to Chase Collins.
Hi, can you actually repeat the question for me?
Sure. Please detail your position on the change to standards-based grading as opposed to traditional grading. What changes, if any, would you make?
Honestly, listen to what Kathleen said. That's what I thought the question was. I think Kathleen probably hit the nail on the head in regards to figuring out where the student is actually struggling. I tell you the truth, I really don't think I could say much more than what Kathleen said. That was a great response.
Okay, thank you. I don't know if anybody else sees the same thing I'm seeing, but Chase Collins, while we could hear you, we can't see you, so you might want to activate your video next time you start speaking. And last on this question is Elayne Clancy.
Definitely agree with standardized based grading. It allows the parents, the students, the teachers, the administrators to see how well the children are doing, what their needs are, what their strengths are. It allows for differentiated instruction, smaller groups, to be able to help a child with something that they need more help on, or to actually do peer tutoring. You might have a child that excels at something, and kids learn the best from other kids. So you could do small groups with peer tutoring with other children helping other children, and standardized grading allows you to be able to see that, to be able to move the kids from group to group with whatever their needs are and their strengths are.
Thank you. We'll move on to the next question. I think I got to everybody. Yeah. Describe why or why not. No, let me start again. Describe why or why you do not support the Equity Council, its mission and research when devising a plan for the district. Would you take input from the general public as well? And we're going to begin this question with Brian Ellis.
Oh wow, Barbara, you just gave me a layup. This no, but seriously, I think
I did not do this on purpose.
No, Barbara, I completely, unequivocally support the Equity Coalition and Committee. to be honest with you, my involvement at the district level started there. Like I said, I have students in the district. My oldest graduated back in 2018, and she was part of the incident that happened at the high school fall of 2017. And at that point, I saw her commitment to equity, and I wanted to be a part of that. So I made it a duty of mine to be as active and as engaged as possible in all things across the district, one being equity. So I completely support the work they're doing. I think it's an open door policy. We welcome more individuals every day. It's growing as well, too. The one thing about equity, I'll just I want to get off my soapbox a little bit, but the one thing about that, when it first started, it was a huge group. And then over time, it just starts to shrink and shrink and shrink. I've been there since day one, and there's an open door policy where we welcome the community, we welcome partners, we welcome administration, we welcome faculty, we welcome anyone that can provide insight as it relates to race, religion, socioeconomic, all types of things. So I'm a huge advocate of the Equity Coalition and Committee, and I encourage everybody to join and be part of it. Thanks.
Thank you. Now to Stacey Dimeo.
I have a hard time imagining someone not believing in an equity committee and equity for our students and our children. It's just who I am, who my family is, who my friends and family are. I think we need to provide a safe and warm and open environment for all of our students and all of our community members. I think we would want community members involved in the equity committee. Wouldn't think anything better. Like Brian said, the more the merrier. I think we need total community buy-in, school buy-in, and I think we need to move in that direction 110%.
Thank you. And now to Cynthia Taglienti.
Oh, I believe in supporting the committee. In all honesty, I don't know much about it or what actually is involved in the school level. I know it's been the community's involved, but if I'm elected to the board, that's something I would look into as to learn more about it. And definitely support, equity for all, for teachers, for students, for everybody in the school district. So it's something that I would need to educate myself on a little bit because I really, truthfully, don't know much about it. So I would like to, even if I'm not elected, I'd like to learn more about what it is and what goes on with it. Thank you.
Thank you. And now to Kathleen Gallinaro.
You know how Brian's face lit up when he started? I'm right behind him. I joined the Equity Council a couple of years ago. Same kind of situation. It's always a reason, and a lot of times the reason stems from your own life and your own family. I have two very diverse children in ability level, in presentation. Both are marginalized in a certain way. It's something that's difficult for me to always understand what they go through. And as a teacher, I see students like this all the time. I puzzle over how you're supposed to help them, the best way to make sure that the barriers are removed. I think that the Equity Committee brings together so many like-minded people who just want the best for all of our students. And I think that if people reach out and want to learn more and come to the meetings, it's a great place to learn. It's a great place to find people who have resources. And one of the things that I love the most is there's no stupid questions. You can ask what you need to ask. You can find information. People are very forthright with what they know. And it's just a wonderful group. I think it can do great things for our township.
Thank you. Next is Chase Collins.
Unfortunately, like I said at the beginning of this, I'm very young. So tell you the truth, I'm not very well versed on this equity committee. Though I would brush up on this, try to get involved. I see Brian here and Kathleen here are both involved, and they're both sitting board members, right? If I'm correct. So why wouldn't I want to get involved? Try to make friends with everybody and start getting things done around there. But unfortunately, I don't know too much about the committee. That'll be all.
Thank you. And to Elayne Clancy.
For equity in the classroom, for all students, no matter what their socioeconomic or their cultural background is. It has been and always been part of my classroom with classroom meetings. And if you're familiar with multi-age, where we had an inclusion environment, where we had children of all abilities and all nationalities. It's very important that children learn, even at a young age, that's where it starts, to understand that we all have different wrappings, different needs, but we all have gifts inside that we can share with each other.
Thank you. And last on this question is Julie Kozempel.
I'm so glad to hear everyone is interested in this and already sort of working with this in their own lives and professions. I'm a supporter of the Equity Coalition. I guess I'll give a little background on with the board structure. We have standing committees, which is instructional affairs, student activities, and business and finance. And then we have ad hoc committees, which are committees that come up when we have a topic that we want to tackle together with parents and community members. So we have, for instance, a homework committee. We've have a calendar committee. We've had a variety of CTAG, which is for special education. We have a lot of ad hoc committees. And equity came up, as Brian stated, after we had it started with a racial incident in 2017. We had a lot of interest. We had about, the first meeting I went to, there were over 100 people there in the high school cafeteria, and we split up into groups. And then as the kids start to graduate, because there were students and parents and a lot of people involved, administrators and staff, as kids start to graduate or move on, you know, some of that fell off, but the core group of people are still very much involved. I'd say at least 40 or 50 people when we get together in the Zoom call, and every board member has attended the meetings and has been a part of this work, which is very important. It's not just academics, it's not just sports, it's not just visual and performing arts, it's social, emotional, and equity as well. Ran out of time.
Thank you. Thank you. Next question. Reflection on current racial and social justice issues has prompted some educators to express a desire for a more culturally responsive curriculum. Please discuss your opinion of this perspective and what you would recommend for our schools. And then as an addition to the question, would you endorse a curriculum addition based on the 1619 project? We're going to begin with Stacey Dimeo.
As we know, this is clearly a hot topic that everyone's been talking about. I think all these different curriculums that we're hearing about, I have not seen them. I don't think they've actually been written yet, but it's been out there. It's in the media. It's online. I did some research, but you can find anything you want about anything, depending on what you're looking for. I think politics should stay out of the classroom. I think we have to focus on equity and focus on curriculum that targets all of our students' individual needs. If it was a curriculum decision, I would have to see the curriculum, you know, when it goes to the board, it goes to committee. It's not a decision I can make myself as a board member. It's a decision the whole team makes. I said, but I think, I would need more information to make any type of curricular change. I'm not having read the curriculum, but what I can speak to is that I would be sure to vote for or support curriculum that includes all of our students individually, that they're all safe and supported and secure.
Thank you. Next will be Cynthia Taglienti.
I think it should be something considered to be part of the curriculum. If it's part of history, it should be presented to the classroom, to the students in a certain way, but it shouldn't be used where somebody puts their own judgment and their own ideas into it. It should be something factual that's presented in that manner, and that's about all I can say on that. As far as the 1960 project, I'm not too well versed in that, but it's something that I would have to look into. And if I was elected on the board, I would have to look at the curriculum and as a whole before making any kind of decision or voting on that. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. And now to Kathleen Gallinaro.
Right now is like the most tumultuous time in the time that I've been teaching, to be in a classroom and to have hard conversations. And I truly believe that no matter what your political affiliation, as an educator, you do not push that on students. Political ideology stays out of the classroom. That said, curriculum has to be factual, and sometimes it involves hard conversations. I've been on so many curriculum committees, I think I'm losing count. It takes more than one person and what one person thinks. It takes sometimes years and several people and a ton of research to choose a correct curriculum, something that's reflective of what the needs of the students are and what the needs of the district is. And it's such a big, long process. It's not something one person can make a snap decision about. So, while we're considering all of these difficult issues, I think it involves so much more than just a decision one person can make.
Thank you. Next is Chase Collins.
Hi. Yeah, a lot of what my the people before me said. Definitely don't think that the teachers should be pushing any sort of political agenda while teaching the curriculum to students. But on the topic of curriculum, it's definitely something that me myself, I can't just sit down and say, oh yeah, I want to teach this curriculum. It's definitely something you have to sit down, look at. Kathleen said it herself. I mean, it definitely takes some time to do, probably well past the time that I'm going to be on this board, to tell you the truth. But I definitely think politics need to be stayed out of it, especially right now. I mean, we're at such a diverse time, honestly, in our country. I think that the school should just stick to, very surface conversations. That's what this is what the lower level education is for. Obviously, there's more to a history lesson at the end of the day. But if the student chooses to pursue that a little bit more in depth, then yeah, let's take it on. But again, like I said, this high school, elementary school, it should all be surface conversation in regards to history. And that's really it. Without seeing a curriculum in front of me, it's really going to be hard to say what I think about the 1960 project or anything like that.
Okay, thank you. To Elayne Clancy, and I just want to read the last part of the question again. It's, would you endorse a curriculum addition based on the 1619 project?
As far as a curriculum based on the 1619 project, I probably would need to know more about it, but right now, for what I do know, I probably would not. I think that we have to look at what the agenda is, and we need to stick with facts and teach history. If it can include some of what's in the 1619 and it's factual, I have no problem with it, but I don't think we should push one agenda over all of what we know as history. We need to, explore it. But, and I also think we need to hear from the people that live in Washington Township that have their children in the schools. And so that's something we need feedback from the people also, as far as what they feel and what their concerns are. And no political agenda should be pushed into the classroom. It should be an open discussion, and children should learn to be critical thinkers and know how to take the different viewpoints and make their own decisions. That's what we're supposed to teach them, is critical thinking.
Thank you. Next is Julie Kozempel.
I believe in the process that we have in place for approving curriculum. We have a curriculum committee of the board, as most boards of education do, which consists of 4 board members and administration. This type of curriculum, among others that are buzzwords out there right now, LGBTQ curriculum, 1619 curriculum, are some labels that people want to talk about and pigeonhole people into. But the simple fact is those are state level curriculums, and if they're approved at the state level and they come to us, then at that point we really need to get into them and see what's involved. It's not like you can just say as a board member, I want to do a curriculum based on a 1619 podcast that I saw. You can't, that doesn't work that way. It's workshopped in committee, it's brought down from the state, it's workshopped in committee, and then it's brought to a larger board for discussion. So also our curriculum are on cycles. So when that cycle were to come up, I actually don't know off the top of my head when that would cycle through, but we have 7-year cycles for these things. So it does take a long time. Chase is right. If you're on the board for 3 years, you might not even get to that. Also, I agree with Elayne that parents should be involved in these decisions, and that's why it's very important to me to be on the board and to have people who are parents with children currently in the schools on the board. It's never been more important for that to be happening.
Thank you. And last on this question is Brian Ellis.
Yeah, thanks, Barbara. And I actually appreciate the question. And I'm going to lead with a quote from my favorite author, James Baldwin. Not everything that is faced can be changed, but nothing can change until it's faced. Having said that, I'm going to redirect the question a bit. I think it was about culturally responsive curriculum. How about culturally responsible curriculum? That's what I want to focus on because that entails inclusion. And I think that's going to be the important piece here. The nice thing about being on the board is it's very inclusive, and the governance and the structure of it, we're not making these decisions in isolation or in silos. It's an effort. It's considered effort with administration and other board members. So as far as the 1619 project, to be honest with you, I don't know much about it. I know it's a New York Times generated and things of that nature, but nothing's happening until it's the consensus of the entire board, which is going to include input from parents, administrators, students, and of the like. So, I think we can kind of put that on the back burner for right now and really focus on making sure our curriculum is where it needs to be and an inclusive one.
Thank you. Next question. What recommendations would you as a board member make to achieve a higher level of diversity among teachers and other school staff? And we're going to begin with Cynthia Taglienti.
Well, I think it's important to look at all your applicants for any kind of jobs in the school district. Sure that you're including from a diverse selection for your interview process. I mean, that's a very important thing to make sure that you are including everybody and you're not excluding anybody based on any kind of background or orientation or anything, even though you might not even know that from their application, but you still somebody might know the person, anything or where they've been educated or anything like that. I think it's important that you include everybody so that you have more representation in the school districts at the administrative level and at the teaching level, and even for your support staff as well. Thank you.
Thank you. And to Kathleen Gallinaro.
I really think that inclusion and diversity is something that our student body is filled with more now than ever before. And it's so important when we're looking at applicants, when we're looking at job fairs, when we push out at job fairs, to look for candidates who have a background and an experience that is different than just what is normally seen in this area. Because that is what the students need to see. That's the biggest thing for me. Students need to see representation of themselves in the student body. And I think that the more we go out and search and make that a priority, the better off it is for our students.
Thank you. Were you finished? I'm sorry. Okay. To Chase Collins.
Hi. Yeah, so the question's kind of catching me off guard here. What requirements do I think to achieve a more diverse group of teachers? I just want to make it clear, I definitely don't think skin color plays a role in somebody's teaching ability. Okay, that's first off, making that very clear. I definitely think that if you have an African American class that's being taught in, let's just say, any situation, most likely the teacher is going to be of African American descent. So I don't think that you're finding Caucasian teachers teaching African American history primarily. So I would definitely say I don't think a skin color plays any role in the teaching ability of the teacher. I think if you're putting out there the job applications for XYZ, it's gonna come back appropriately XYZ. This is what I do. This is my students' grades for the past, I don't know, let's just say 5 years if we're looking at for a teacher. Here are my recommendations, and then you go from there. I think if you're going down based upon if somebody's white, black, or Asian, I definitely think that's a wrong way to look at an applicant. Just totally wrong way.
Okay, now to Elayne Clancy.
I think that we need to look at the qualifications, but you also have to look at your population. It's very important for children to see people that are teachers, people that are helping them also represent the community that they live in and that they learn in. So looking at the applications, it would be nice if the applications just could be, colorblind, but you also have to take into consideration that you do need qualified people of all diverse backgrounds so that children can see themselves in that person. My favorite teachers, the reason why I'm teaching, at the time I was in third grade, didn't know of where I grew up in New York of color. She happened to have been a Black woman. She's the reason I wanted to teach. She was so way ahead of her time. So for me, it was completely the opposite, but I really think that the teachers need to also be representative of some of the population of the children that are in the schools.
Okay, thank you. Now to Julie Kozempel.
I agree that our teaching staff, our administrative staff, our support staff, everyone who comes in contact with our children should reflect the world in which they live. And what's difficult is sometimes in a district this large, when positions open, the schools, they kind of know who they want from within the district. And so what I've tried to do since I've been on the board is really make a change there and raise people's awareness that you can recruit people from outside. I'm not even just saying anything having to do with diversity, but just diversity in terms of race, but just bringing people in who have a diverse experience, not just Washington Township. So that to me is extremely important because there are people from all walks of life that could really bring a lot to our students for a variety of reasons. And so, that anything from principal up goes to the personnel committee, which is absolutely a committee of the board, and board members have input and can guide, some of the discussion towards hiring administrators. But I think that it starts from the top, and that has to come from your superintendent, and that is the only employee that the board hires is your superintendent. So if you want to make changes about hiring in a diverse manner, you need to have a superintendent that's bought into that.
Thank you. And Brian Ellis is next.
Yeah, so in my day job, I'm actually the associate dean at a Research One business school. And what I can tell you is I have a lot of dealings with corporate 500 companies, and any of these businesses will tell you that diversity is good business. So I'm going to equate that to education, and diversity is good education. And when we talk about diversity, let's not get hung up on race. Let's get hung up on diversity of thought. Diversity, Julie said, diversity of experience, and race is part of it as well. So yes, I do believe that diversity is critical no matter what line of work you're in, business, education, so be it. One thing I think we can do is the most important thing for us as a district is to be cognizant of diversity, how important it can be. When we do hiring practice, hiring faculty, staff, administrators, the board, if we're cognizant of diversity, it's going to make us a better district. It's going to make us a better board. It's going to make us a better place to be in community. Thank you.
Thank you. And last on this topic is Stacey Dimeo.
I think we have a diverse student population. So I think we need a diverse teaching population. I think everyone has different things to offer with different experiences. And I think that's what we need to try to reach for. I think there are job fairs you can attend. I think there are communication and collaboration with like neighboring colleges, and to try to start relationships starting in high school, moving forward, to try and bring people in to vary the experience and the teaching staff and administration that we have here, because we want the student population to have staff that they can connect with. And not everybody's the same. So I think the more diverse our population is, or more diverse our staff is, the more opportunity our students will have to find someone to relate with.
Thank you. Moving on. Discuss your views on special education in Washington Township, and what would you bring to the board that would help to provide a better experience for special education students? And we begin with Kathleen Gallinaro.
There's two areas I feel like I can be beneficial when it comes to this area. The first is having two children with 504s. It fits into the realm of special education. IEPs and 504s are similar in some ways. The need for students to have modifications in their learning and in their social emotional areas. That's something that is difficult right now. It's difficult for teachers because they're not physically present with a student, and that impacts communication, impacts their ability to teach. I think the most important thing right now is to establish a really secure, strong connection between teachers, support staff, and those students. From an educator perspective, we reach out to our students in my school who have IEPs, who have needs, because it's important. And I'm lucky I can actually see some of the students who are hybrid in some ways, but it's hard where we are right now. I think promoting some sort of connection, whether it's a virtual connection or an in-person connection, is the most beneficial thing that you can do, in addition to collaborating with parents to make sure those students have their needs met.
Thank you. Now to Chase Collins.
So my views with the special education in Washington Township, I mean, as of right now, with everybody knows, COVID-19 is definitely impacting all of our children, right? With special needs children, I can only tell you that that's going to be even more of an impact on them because they need the extra one-on-one attention. If I was elected to the board, I think right off the bat, I would like to try to push an idea where there was a special ed only portal, so that, because obviously the parents are helping their children do this homework and all the extra teaching that they're doing, right? It's a lot to take on as a parent. They got to juggle their personal life and also their child's education at the same exact time. Very difficult on top of the special needs. So if I got brought in, I think we should develop some sort of virtual portal immediately for the special ed students so that the teachers can connect with the parents a little bit more easy. Because obviously these teachers, now I don't want to say parents don't know their children, but obviously these teachers have dealt with not only with their special needs child, but multiple special needs child. So sometimes I would think that the parent would need to reach out to the teacher and say, hey, what do you think is best? How should I do this? So if we made some sort of portal like that, I think that would solve a little bit of the issues.
Thank you. To Elayne Clancy.
Special ed. I am a teacher of the handicap. I have taught in elementary school as a special ed teacher and regular ed teacher for the multi-age classroom, 2 teachers in the classroom, co-teaching. When I was by myself, I did have children that had IEPs and 504s. I think it's very important to understand what the needs are of the children, but not only their needs, but when you take a child out of the classroom, if you go and watch one of their basketball games, you would never know that they were a special needs kid. And so you need to focus on like being part of what's going on in their life other than school. And also, we used to do a circle of friends so that the kids, even though a child might have special needs, we end up helping each other because that special needs child might be really good in art, really good in music. And so you need to focus on that. With the virtual teaching, I know people that are special ed teachers that are already doing very small groups with their special ed children in a very difficult way, doing it virtually, but they're working as hard as they can to meet the needs of these children, the individual needs. And that's what you need to do. Look at the modifications, make sure they're being taken care of.
Thank you. To Julie Kozempel.
I'm a huge supporter of providing benefits for students who have special needs. We have a group in our school district called CPEG, which is Special Education Parent Group. It's a community group where people can come and raise general issues. But in between that, I think some special ed parents would be quite angry if their interaction with their child study team was through an online portal. We have child study teams that are in place that include guidance counselors, teachers, not even your child teacher, but an elementary teacher, therapists, and the parents, and they work collaboratively and meet regularly to meet the child's needs and write those IEPs. And on the flip side, not with the child study team, to enforce what is placed into a 504 medical plan. So this is equity, right? This is one of the equity issues, is getting kids where they need to be so that they are so that the playing field is level for them. and everyone can achieve to the best of their ability. So, like I said, I am a huge supporter of special needs. I have had a child who was in a disabled pre-K program here in our district. It was phenomenal for him, and I think that we do a great job with it. We can always improve, and I support our special education teachers and staff.
Thank you. To Brian Ellis now.
Yeah, so I've been on the board now for about 6 months. I came on as someone retired, and one thing I can tell you is, in my short time on the board, I've been really impressed by the district and the attention and the support provided in special ed. It's been outstanding. You talk about being a premier district. I mean, we're living in one. Haven't said that to the point where I've been on some residency hearings because people want to get into the district just to be part of these services, which is a good thing. That's what amazes us, and I'm amazed by what we do. Having said that, what would I bring to the board? I think more than anything, I'm an advocate, right? I think we talked a lot earlier about inclusion. I'm an advocate for this population and the parents, and I'm going to bring someone that can listen to understand, so I can be supportive, and I need people to inform me as to how I can help and how I can support you and your child's endeavors in this realm. But I'm really impressed by what we have currently at the district, and I'm sure we're going to continue to build on that. Thank you.
Thank you. Now to Stacey Dimeo.
I've been in special education for over 25 years, starting as an early intervention speech therapist up to a special education administrator currently. For my current job, I'm in and out of every district in a neighboring county where I see what special ed programming works, what doesn't work, and how to implement that with the financial realities of our district in mind. I think my experience would come to play, especially in this area. Knowing what works, knowing how to make our special education students succeed and be successful is where my heart is. It's where we'll always be. I think we need to make smart decisions. We need to make wise decisions. And we have to make sure that our special education students and 504 students, or students with a 504, get the help and support that they need.
Thank you. Last on this question is Cynthia Taglienti.
Hi, I believe that special education is very important at all levels, from elementary school all the way up to high school. I don't have direct involvement in the classroom, but I have been involved with students at the high school level. In the district where I work, we have a very strong life skills and job transition program where the students go out into the community, work in the stores. I've been directly involved with that in my own cafeteria. I have students that come in and work in the food services, and it's been a real eye-opener. There's a lot that they can do that they need to do outside of the classroom. They have a lot of other skills. We have kids at all levels where sometimes they need that other kind of education experience that they get that's not just with, where they can have their hands on to things, and it's a great experience for them. I've done job references for a few students that are now out working full-time jobs in the community, and it's a pleasure to see them be able to learn these skills and move on. And we actually have a few that are working in our own school district that have gone through this program. So if it's not in the school district in Washington Township, that's something I would really like to look into and try to make that stronger and better, because these are the community students that are going out there for jobs permanently.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Next question. Please discuss your position on the board policy regarding student discipline. What changes would you look to put in place? We're going to begin with Chase Collins.
Hello. All right. So student discipline. Man, it's actually been a while since I've I've been in high school or even disciplined, obviously, in that level. But one thing I do remember is that sending the student home definitely was not a punishment for the student. It was almost like a vacation. Definitely would think that we need to stay with the no bullying concept within the schools. But obviously those things arise and physical altercations happen. Those students then get, suspended, sent home, X, Y, Z. I definitely think that we need to implement a different type of disciplinary system, like almost like the in-school suspension where they're there. Though I remember, obviously being in high school, I don't know anybody who never had one day of in-school suspension, but unfortunately I did. Those teachers who are sitting in there, they're not doing anything. They're sitting in the classroom. The students were either on their cell phones or whatever they're doing, playing around, drawing on their desks, and not being taught. So I definitely think that sending the students home, not a good idea. But honestly, at the end of the day, we're not even there. We need to get the students back into the school. That's really the real reason why I wanted to join the Board of Education. I know there's a lot of talk here of great ideas.
Thank you.
But
I'm
I am
sorry,
a
but
businessman, so you can't have
time is
any of
up.
these. You can't have any.
Thank you. We're going to move on to Elayne Clancy.
In the world of work, you have consequences, and basically we're raising our children for the world of work. And kids know when they do something wrong. They need to know that for all the good things that you do and you follow the rules and you do what you're supposed to do, there's positive consequences. On the other hand, if you don't follow the rules, there are negative consequences. But negative doesn't have to be. In my classroom, we had an economy system. And so if you got a warning and you didn't abide by the warning, you had to move your clip down, which meant that you had to pay me $5 of classroom money. Otherwise, your money went up. They had to rent their desks. They had to rent their cubbies. They got paid for jobs that they did in the classroom. I just think that we need to have children understand that you have consequences either way for what your actions are. And we really need to focus on getting them, when they do something positive, to make sure that you let them know they did something right. Because the more that they get that positive reinforcement, the less you're going to see of the negative.
Thank you. To Julie Kozempel.
I think the question is very vague and unfair, quite frankly, to people who have not served on the board, because we have hundreds of policies that relate to discipline and a variety of, and so I feel badly for you guys for having to answer this. If the question is referring to the student code of conduct, again, it's a vague question. All I'll say is that what's at the heart of our student code of conduct is positive student development. So I don't think that discipline should ever be punitive. I think it should always be an opportunity for growth, and that we should have a growth mindset as it relates to discipline. And I don't think there's much more that I can say about that. I mean, we've reviewed almost every policy in the district, and like I said, if you go on and look up the word policy, discipline in our policies online, you'll find probably 10 pages of related discipline policies. So maybe that's a factor. Is maybe it should all be compressed into one place. But in the student handbook, student code of conduct, discipline is to foster positive student experiences, and I agree with that wholeheartedly.
Thank you. To Brian Ellis now.
Yeah, I'm glad to follow Julie on that one, because my question to you, Barbara, is going to be if you could elaborate a little more. Having said that, though, I think a discipline, it's important. It's important for us to maintain order and accountability within the schools. One thing that I've been working on in my role at my job is something that we call power skills. In the old days we called them soft skills, and these are the things that aren't explicitly addressed in the curriculum. And I do think there's an opportunity, not just for Washington Township, but even in higher education, to really start addressing these power skills, because this involves discipline. It's about critical thinking and critical reasoning and cultural sensitivity and all those types of things, what I think would help make up policy that's going to help lead us to disciplinary actions and things of that nature. So that's really all I have on this topic, because it's a very vague question. So thank you.
Unfortunately, I don't have a whole lot of background. I'm just the aggregator here. Stacey Dimeo is next.
I think when you're looking at behavior, I think you have to look at consistency. There are policies in place which outline when A happens and B happens, and if B happens, C happens. And if that's consistent, it needs to be consistent across all schools. But I think you have to look at positive behavior supports. I'm looking at positive behavior, looking at social emotional growth. I truly believe that no one child wants to get up and get in trouble that day. No one wants to get in trouble or do the wrong thing. I think there are reasons for behavior. I work with the juvenile detention center and see young adults there. No one wanted to be there. And I think you have to look at the why. And I think if you look at and concentrate on positive behavior supports and looking at the positive and looking at their emotional needs, I think we can hopefully nip some of the behaviors before they happen. So I think that's it.
Thank you. To Cynthia Taglienti now.
I agree with what the others were saying too. There is, as a school district, there are policies in place. There's numerous policies. There's stacks of them. I think it's just important that they're consistent. And when somebody breaks a policy, that they get the same level of treatment or consequences. And sometimes that's not fair across the board. There are policies that need to be looked at and updated regularly as times change. But I think as Brian and Julie had said, that it's a hard question because there are policies out there and they're reviewed all the time. And it's just important that they're consistent with how they're handled and across all the schools. Thank you.
Thank you. And last on this is Kathleen Gallinaro.
So I've spent a lot of time working on my school's safety committee. And one of the things that we do is we look at HIB reports, that's harassment, intimidation, bullying, which is a big piece of the puzzle of discipline because it's a state mandated thing that we have to investigate these things, find out why they happen, initiate consequences, which makes sense. So definitely consistency across the board at all schools is key. The other thing, it's an approach that involves so many different pieces. Why did the student do what the student did? There's so many reasons. I agree with what Stacey said. I don't believe that a student wakes up one morning and wants to cause trouble just because they want to cause trouble. There's a reason. That said, that doesn't make them immune to consequences. Nobody is. So that's an important life lesson. I also feel that it's important to make sure consequences make sense and make sure that a student, if they're wrong in the situation, feels safe and feels secure. I've been on both sides of HIP reports, and it's very important to make sure that in a school setting that children feel secure and safe. That's the cornerstone of learning. They have to feel secure in order to learn. And I think that the whole idea of discipline and a code of conduct wraps right around that.
Thank you. I know this is getting a little long, but with your permission, I'd like to ask one more question before we move on to closing remarks, because we haven't discussed finances yet, and I know that many of the residents feel this is very important. The board is faced with difficult budget decisions on an annual basis. Where, if anywhere, do you think you can achieve savings? Would you consider a no-growth budget? Would you consider outsourcing? That's a lot to digest. We're going to begin with Elayne Clancy.
With the school budget, but if I am elected to the board, I would definitely look into all the details that it involves to make an informed decision. As far as outsourcing goes, I am opposed to outsourcing, and here's the reason why. Most of the people that work in our schools, in the cafeterias, the bus drivers, they work here, they pay taxes here, and they take a special interest, especially like in the school that I taught in the well-being of the children. A lot of them know the children very well. They know what their needs are. Many times in the cafeteria, I see the cafeteria people will pack up the extra food, put in the child's backpack because they know what's going on at home with not having enough food. Same thing with the bus drivers, knowing the safety of the kids, knowing the kids that get on the bus on a personal, first name basis. Outsourcing, you wouldn't have that. So as far as outsourcing goes, that would be the last thing that I would probably look at.
Thank you. Next is Julie Kozempel.
So we always want to look at a zero growth budget. We always want to keep from increasing taxes to that 2% cap. School districts have the ability to increase the tax levy 2% every year. For the past few years, we have not even gone to the 2%, and that is because every single year we cut things from the budget. Programming is not something I think we want to cut at all, and most of our expenses are contractual. So areas where you can cut is generally administration, which we have been doing through through breakage, and also not replacing positions. Retirements is breakage. Sorry, and administration is a great place where you can find some money there, and also just being more efficient in your business practices. Outsourcing, I'm absolutely 100% against outsourcing. I have kids in the schools. I want control over who is hired to be around my kids. I don't want an outside company doing that. Look at what happened recently in local school districts where they had an HVAC employee that was putting cameras in the bathrooms. Our employees that are in our buildings work for us. Our HVAC employees work for us. Anybody who's hired, is maybe working outside or accompanied in by an employee, but the people who are around our kids need to be employed by us, not an outsourced company.
Thank you. To Brian Ellis now.
Yeah, I guess I'll start by echoing what Julie said about outsourcing. The answer is no. I think there's something to that township pride of our employees, our staff, and our faculty, and that's something that I think that we as a board would firmly want to uphold. Having said that, again, Julie talked about most of the budget being contractual. Just so people have a little clarity on that, 90% is actually contractual obligations, and only 10% is under the board control. So that's really important. But having said that, obviously the goal is a growth budget. But again, there is a cap if we had to increase the budget in any way, shape, or form. But again, definitely, I support a no growth budget moving forward. Thanks.
Thank you. To Stacey Dimeo now.
I'm going to echo the no to outsourcing. We want to look at consistency, relationships with our students, the community. You don't get that with outsourcing. So a big no to that. And of course, we do not want to raise taxes. You want the budget to be modeled after the way it's been over the past few years, and we've kept it under that 2% increase. I think we can look at administration, possibly even transportation, consolidating routes. I don't know as far as our specifically, but that is an area where you can sometimes cut budget-wise. But I think you have to look at the end result. If you do cut programming or something like that, you have to look at the end result and say, what happens if we cut that, and make sure you're not causing a bigger problem than what you're starting out with. So no to outsourcing, and yes to keeping the taxes down, and looking at administration and staff is needed.
Thank you. To Cynthia Taglienti.
First of all, I'm going to comment on outsourcing. Personally, I worked in other school districts before I came to the one now, and I was part of a company that was outsourced. I don't like it from being on the other side now. It's a big conflict in the district. I have seen companies that have brought in custodial maintenance directly that I was involved with, and it's a hard situation to be in. I feel strongly against it. I would never want to bring it into Washington Township districts. As far as the budget's concerned, I don't feel in making cuts without truthfully looking through the whole process of what would be cut and how it would affect people, because if you make a cut, it can affect students, it can affect teachers' livelihoods, it can affect administration, it can affect a lot of factors. Personally, I don't want to cut anything that would involve the educational process, but there are some things there that you have to look at and consider and tweak here and there if you need to. But I would definitely have to investigate everything before doing that, and look at all the ways that it would affect everybody involved. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. And to Kathleen Gallinaro.
Budgeting is like one of the $1 million questions because it is such a big deal. We're in a huge district. There's like $146 million operating budget from some of the research that I've looked over. And I think our board has done a tremendous job at making sure that, it's not, the cost is not being passed on to the taxpayer as much as they can control. Here's the issue. We have state aid that's cut more and more every year. There's so many things going on between the technology we've had to implement and all the different programs. And there's so many different pieces that I think that we're going to always struggle with. How do we make this manageable? Maybe one of the ways is looking at administration. Is it top heavy? Is there a ratio that doesn't make sense? If we compare it to other districts, is there a higher ratio of, say, administration to faculty that we can look at? And then just examining what those roles are. Can any of them be consolidated? I do not believe in outsourcing. When you have people who live and work in and around the community with those students, you have people who invested interest in the community and in the schools. And that is so important. I can't stress that enough, how important it is. We have the best support staff imaginable in Washington Township, and we need to keep them.
Thank you. But last on this question is Chase Collins.
So just right off the rip with outsourcing, no, definitely I'm against that. The sad truth though is, just so you guys know, I do own a very successful business. I've been in business for probably about 7 years now, and I'm only 28 years old. So really what I really wanted to come into the Board of Education is obviously to comb through the budget. Without a doubt, I think raising taxes, I don't want to raise taxes, but I don't think I would be in support of a complete no growth budget, because it's not a reality. I mean, you have inflation that's 2% annually anyway. Okay, so you have to be able to keep up at a certain point. You understand? But in regards to that, I do think that there is some frivolous spending that's probably going on, and that's what I'd like to come in, make those cuts where they deem necessary, because at the end of the day, you have to make cuts that aren't working. Granted, there's a potential sacrifice, but you need to weigh that out so that you can grow. If, let's just say, you're spending, I don't know, $10,000 here, but if I cut that, I can spend, $3,000 here and still get a little bit of this, is where I think you really need to be.
Okay. Thank you. I'll let you all catch your breath for about 2 seconds before we move on to closing statements. 90-second closing statements in reverse ballot order will begin with the individuals competing for the 1-year unexpired term and end with the individuals competing for the 3-year terms. We'll begin with Cynthia Taglienti.
First of all, I want to thank you for giving me the opportunity to speak out and tell you my opinions and why I'm running for the board. Right now, I've raised 2 kids in the township that are grown. I was very involved while my children were in the school system, and they both were involved in a lot of extracurricular activities, sports, and I miss that. I really want to get back involved with the schools, and I have a lot of time on my hands now that I can get involved and give it my support. I'm very concerned about the education for the future and what's going on in our world now and what's happening in the schools itself. So that's basically the reason why I like to get involved and be chosen as a board member. Thank you.
Thank you. Our next speaker is Stacey Dimeo.
Thanks again for holding this forum for us to be able to speak our opinions. As I said, I've worked in a school district. I've gone from an instructional assistant to speech therapist, child study team member, INRS member, supervisor, now director. But most importantly, I'm a mother of 2 children. I'm currently in the school district, in the middle school. And let's face it, nothing evokes emotion more than our children. And I want the best education for them and every other child in this district. My illustrious career as a youth sports coach has kind of come to an end. And now I want to kind of give back to the community as a board member. My experience with administration, gen ed, and special ed, I can really give a hand as far as programming, what works and what doesn't, and look at the finances as well to make sure it makes sense in every aspect. Thanks.
Thank you. Next is Brian Ellis.
First, I'd like to thank you, Barbara, for doing such a fantastic job moderating. I'd also like to, thank all the fellow candidates. This is really a labor of love for all of us. It shows a true commitment to the district, to the students, and to the community. So luck to all of you. Having said that, I'm a 27-year resident of Washington Township. I'm a graduate class of 1995. My oldest graduated in 2018. I have 2 kids currently in the district. I have a young man in high school, 9th grader, and I have a 5th grader. And by the way, being home during COVID, I didn't realize how difficult 5th grade math was. Having said that, though, my professional career, I'm in higher education. I've been doing that for well over 18 years. I have specialization in program and development and curriculum development. Having said that, I have a PhD in global leadership, and I'm a researcher at heart. You know, everything that I do, the decisions that I make are data-based. You know, they're supported by data, which is really critical. You know, the one thing that I really like about currently serving on the board is diversity that we talked about, diversity of thought, diversity of idea. And throughout all of this, I'm a huge advocate of innovation. You know, I said earlier that, you know, COVID hit and there's no going back now, right? So I think us as a district, we need to be cognizant of that, and we need to make sure that we continue to grow as a district to propel us well into the 21st century, which is going to be really important. Innovation is going to be key, and I can help get us there as a member of the school board. Thank you.
Thank you. Next to Julie Kozempel.
Hi, thank you, Barbara, the League of Women Voters, of which I am a member, and also the PTO President's Council, Danielle Moore and Chris Lohan, for putting this together on short notice. I really do appreciate you guys doing this because people are really looking for information on those of us that are running for school board, as they should. That said, my information is on, readily available, Googling. I'll go through it quickly. Again, 3 kids in the district, 1 at each level. I'm a full-time tenured faculty member at Camden County College. I've been there for 18 years. I have 2 master's degrees, one from Rowan, one from Rutgers, English and Communications. And I've been on the board for 4 years. This will be the 3rd time I've run for the board. I started with a 1-year unexpired seat, and I'm just finishing up a 3-year term. There's a lot of things that I want to accomplish, that I got on the board to accomplish from the gate. And because the last 2 years when I've been president, we've been doing basically crisis communications with mercury floors and COVID. Some of those things have had to be put aside, and I really just want another 3 years to realize some of that. The reason why I ran for the board in the beginning is actually extremely personal to me. When I moved here from Philadelphia in 4th grade, my parents moved here so that we could take a bus to a safe public school. And, oh no, I'm running out of time. Long story short, my mother went to the board, petitioned for a bus, put on a presentation, got people to sign a document, and we got the bus. And I never forgot that. And God rest her soul, 5 years ago, she passed, which was when I first went to run for the board. And I want to set the same example for my children. So thank you.
Thank you. Next is Elayne Clancy.
I want to thank everybody for being part of this, and thank you, Barbara, for hosting it. I have taught in Township for 25 years. I'm certified regular ed teacher of the handicap and reading. I'm the recipient of a Teacher of the Year award. I am one of the 4 people who got the state special ed best practice award for our inclusive classroom, where we had Down syndrome, Asperger's, autistic kids, kids of all abilities. The reason I'm running for the board is because I think our kids are very important. I have always advocated for all of my children. I actually advocated for a change in the middle school program where they were teaching a basically phonics program to some of our special ed children without the comprehension component. And so I actually fought to have that done. The first year, the comprehension part was done after school as a tutoring. The following year, all of the children that had that program got comprehension also. I'm an advocate for all children. I have always listened to my parents. They always had my home phone number if they came to back to school night. I am open to parents and to anybody that wants to discuss issues. And I really think that it's important to be open and definitely look at diversified teaching and the equity in the classroom. Thank you.
Thank you. Next speaker is Chase Collins.
I'd like to thank everybody who showed up here today. I know that there was a couple who sent in their responses, their written responses, but clearly everybody here has taken a great deal of their time to be here, obviously. So you definitely can see who's here for the students, right? Just want to tell you guys, I've been in Township for a short amount of time. Obviously, I'm pretty young, okay? I'm definitely, I guess what you would call fresh blood. You know, I'm not on the Board of Education like some of these people like Julie and Brian, which they have a very extensive background. But the real reason what made me want to get into it is, I mean, the COVID hit. There was no immediate plan that was formulated. And to tell you the truth, my neighbor came up to me and said, hey, why don't you run for the Board of Education? These are some great ideas that you have in regards to getting these children back in. And I took a shot at it. I definitely believe in diversity with the hiring of the teachers. I definitely would like to focus on. I know we made remarks in regards to disciplinary action. Without a doubt, the kids aren't waking up saying, "Hey, I want to start problem." But I definitely think you need to focus on the students that are repetitive problems without causing more problems inside the household. Because what happens is the kid comes back home, it's the same lashing, goes back to school. It's a vicious cycle. So if I'm elected for the Board of Education, I'm definitely going to be focusing on the budget, focusing on how to get the kids back in from the COVID-19 safely. I know these sound like very small goals compared to a lot of some of my other people here running against me, but we definitely need to focus on the immediate problems, get the kids
Okay.
back into school, and keep everybody safe.
I'm afraid I got to cut you off, but thank you. And Kathleen Gallinaro is our last closing statement.
All right. Thank you so much for this entire experience. It was nerve-wracking. I was very nervous, but I'm thrilled that we're doing this. I have been an educator for long enough that I now teach my students' children, which is very, very strange, but wonderful. I've taught everything from K to 6, financial literacy, STEM, looping, first and second grade, reading specialist, basic skills. I feel like I've run the gamut as far as elementary education. That's a huge push for me to want to be on the board, because I feel like as an educator, I'm in the trenches in that way. I see what the teachers are going through. I feel it. It's unlike anything we've ever done before. We are building the plane as we fly it, and it's difficult and scary, and everybody's trying, and I appreciate that. My most important reason, of course, is my children. I have 2. They're diverse in so many wonderful, unique ways. It's given me a perspective where I can talk to other parents and see their challenges and see the things that they go through. And I just want to be a voice for them. It's so hard when you have children who learn in a way that's different. School isn't always the easiest place when you have kids who are out of the box, because it's in a little box. And I think it's so important to be able to be a voice for those families and those children. So I hope that I will have the chance to do that, and I really appreciate it. Thank you.
Thank you. Now, I do have some concluding remarks and some information about voting in this year's election, so bear with me. On behalf of the President's Council of the Washington Township PTOs, I wish to thank the Board of Education candidates for participating and the Washington Township Public Schools IT Department for recording the forum, very patiently, I might add. The League of Women Voters urges all registered voters to exercise their right to vote during this year's general election, which will be held entirely by mail-in ballot in New Jersey. Election Day is Tuesday, November 3rd, but you should have received your ballot already. Please follow the instructions carefully when voting, signing the certification line, and sealing the ballot in both the security and the mailing envelopes. There are multiple ways to return your completed sealed ballot. You may use the secure ballot drop box placed at the Washington Township Municipal Building and the County Social Services Building at 400 Hollydale Drive, and multiple additional locations throughout the county. You may deliver your ballot in person to the County Board of Elections. You may deliver it, signed, sealed, to the polls on Election Day, or you may put it, no postage necessary, in the U.S. mail. Mailed ballots must be postmarked no later than November 3rd, but the League urges you, if you're going to put it in the mail, to mail it at least 1 week prior to Election Day. At the polls on Election Day, only voters with specific disabilities will be permitted to use the voting machines. All others will be asked to use provisional ballots. The answers to most election questions and ballot question analysis are available at vote411.org or on the League of Women Voters of New Jersey website, which is lwvnj.org. If you need to speak with someone to answer your election question, please call the League of Women Voters of New Jersey at 1-800-792-VOTE, VOTE. Remember, we're all equal at the ballot box, but only if we vote. Thank you again, and good night.